Hello fellow YouTubers, and today on the Best Pokemon Generation Battle series, we're looking at what games have the best pseudo-legendary, or legendaries in one case. Last week's rankings should be on the screen like usual. I included this topic basically because the pseudo-legendary is the final Pokemon for someone at the end of the game, typically. I mean, Lance had his Dragonites, Steven had his Metagross, Cynthia had a Garchomp, so on and so forth. Plus, they are the epitome of cool in their game. Like, really, use a pseudo-legendary and tell me they aren't kick-ass. If you can, you're lying. So, let's HMO8 right in. I definitely feel bad for doing this to Gen 6. But Goodra does absolutely nothing for me. At all. I remember when the games were relatively new, and people weren't evolving their Sliggoo, because they were thinking a Sliggoo with Evolite was better than Goodra. The thing is a pile of goo, and I don't like its design at all. It isn't powerful, really, and it just leaves way too much to be desired. When the games first came out, I was telling a coworker that it was the game's pseudo-legend, and he didn't even believe me. He's like, there's no way, that thing sucks. Just a major disappointment. This was the only one this week. I just knew this one was going in last place. Sorry, Gen 6. Now, number 5 this week is Hydreigon. This was very tough for me. I've never used one, and it's not an insult towards him, but he just doesn't excite me. I like the naming of the evolutionary family, but he just doesn't seem cool at all. I'm sure people will argue this, but the competition this week is just too fierce to put him up even one spot. Just evolving and growing heads never does anything for me, so sorry Diglett, sorry Magnemite, sorry Doduo, and sorry Hydreigon. Now, when I said this week was tough, this was the reason why. Ready to yell at me? Number 4 this week is Gen 1 with Dragonite. I know, how in the hell could I do this? Quite simple, really. The other ones left are just cooler. Dragonite has the nostalgia factor, and yeah, I completely destroyed all of Heart Gold just using a Dragonite. I know! And it was awesome. I'm not even gonna play with your minds. I'm not saying that he isn't cool. He is so cool, but he just isn't as cool as the other ones on this list. Case in point, Tyranitar in number 3. Gen 2 representing once again. Look at Tyranitar. He just radiates badass. He has an awesome type combination. Granted, super weak against rock. Super weak against fighting. But he can wall out pretty much anybody like a boss, as long as they don't have a fighting move. Granted, he's slow, and I don't like slow Pokemon. Speed all day, every day. Let me also say that Dragonite's design is cool, but it's kind of bland. T-Tar takes that, and he's like, check me out. I don't know why, but if Pokemon were real, and I saw a Tyranitar, that would scare me more than a Dragonite. Gen 3 slides into number 2 this week, and I know that's shocking. This is quality over quantity. If anything, the fact there's 2 hurts them. Come on, Metagross, a Steel and Psychic type. Not only can he wall, but he can use Meteor Mash and Psychic to screw people up. And if you don't even like your oddball pseudos, you have Salamence. And he is a better Dragonite. Really, he was so overpowered that the only Pokemon that could knock him out of his spot of being the most overpowered Pokemon was a Dragonite with multi-scale. Plus, look at both of them. They are really cool designs. And the only pseudo remaining is the coolest, and that's Garchomp. I always thought he was cool, but while playing through Pokemon X, I finally had an excuse to use one, and oh my god, he is awesome. Ground Pokemon usually are, Dragon types usually are, and Garchomp's like, I got this. He was designed to be awesome. Not to mention, on Platinum, Cynthia took me down way too many times using her Garchomp. And I see why after using one. He's just so great. Then they added a Mega Evolution for him. And it's like, why? Like he wasn't awesome enough? Anyway, the new rankings will be on the screen now, and here's the problem. Next week, I'm changing it up for the 10th episode. There's 15 episodes in total, so we're about 2/3 of the way there. And this will be the game's biggest flaw. Now, obviously, you don't want a big game-breaking flaw. I'm not going to reward a game for having a big flaw. So they will gain negative points instead of positive points. Basically, you can erase a bad week if your game wasn't that broken. Anyway, due to the way it will be, I'm picking one flaw from each game, which is what I would consider to be the worst flaw, because I'm trying not to be biased. So, if you have a better flaw, comment it, and I'll use it instead. Well, that is, if I think it's better. Anyway, Gen 1, it's the overpowered Psychic types. I mean, come on. Gen 2, this was just so hard. I can pretty much guarantee next week Gen 2 will either be number 1 or number 2. But it's level scaling, or difficulty curve, I guess. But Gen 3 is the water routes, because, my god. Gen 4 is the lack of new Pokemon. Again, it's a bullshit answer. Gen 5 is the reduced experience system. And then Gen 6 is the complete opposite side of the spectrum, which is the XP all being on all of the time. Anyway, peace out, skillets.